Hello, hello, and welcome back to Shelf Talks, the podcast where we dive deep into the journeys of female founders bringing their product-based businesses to retail shelves. I'm your host, Roberta, and today we have the lovely Belle Robinson, founder of ROXII Supercube, all the way from the UK. Belle saw an opportunity to completely rethink the way consumers experience functional wellness. Instead of another powder, pill, or ready-to-drink beverage, she created ROXII Supercube, nutrient-infused functional ice cubes that melt in your favorite drink while delivering benefits like hydration, immunity, beauty, relaxation, all the things we need. It's really a fresh approach that is challenging category norms and bringing innovation to the frozen aisle. And we are excited to hear how she accomplished it. So welcome, Belle, to Shelf Talks.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Yeah, I had your hydration last night with some sparkling water and it was so good.
No way. I'm so happy to hear that. Yeah, hydration and sparkling is one of my favorite combos, actually. It's so refreshing.
Yeah, I love it. Okay, let's kind of take it back to the very beginning. What were you doing before you even thought about building a brand?
Yeah, so I am a London-based nutritionist. I have been working with a gut health specialist here in London for about 3 years, but I was always obsessed with the wellness world in the US. I would fly back and forth on holidays and trips, and I would always get so much inspiration and come back with a whole suitcase full of snacks and exciting things I'd never heard about. So I always had a real passion for what you guys were doing over there. And about 3 years ago, I went to my very first Expo West. I had my concept of ROXII before, but I hadn't even heard of CPG. I didn't know anything about the whole world that you guys have going on. And here we call it FMCG, fast moving consumer goods, but over there it's CPG. So there was a lot to learn. And I visited Expo and I left with a lot of inspiration. It was a great insight. I think anyone who wants to start a brand or wants to dip their foot into that space, that's such a great place to start. I also spoke with a lot of founders there and really connected and started my little world of networking. So yeah, that was kind of where it all kicked off.
So had you thought about being an entrepreneur and thought about creating something in this space?
I was seeing clients in clinic, and as much as I enjoy that and really love helping people, I always had an itch to do something a little bit more creative. I actually worked in fashion before I retrained to become a nutritionist. So I love brand building. I love consumers and really studying the consumer. So it all came together really nicely with my nutrition expertise. So yeah, I think I had an inkling that I may want to launch something one day. I just didn't know what that was.
What made you think about ROXII Supercube? Where did that come from?
Even as a nutritionist, I was so overwhelmed with the wellness world. And, I was constantly mixing in powders, tinctures, taking wellness shots throughout the day. There's so many things you can do. I can't even explain how full my cupboards were of just all different sorts of products, which I love, but I did find it really overwhelming. And I think for the normal person who doesn't have a lot of experience or knowledge about nutrition and wellness, I think it's complete minefield to navigate the wellness aisle. And, wellness is popping up in every single aisle now. So it's an overwhelming experience. So anyway, one day I was adding ice to my powder and my water because I always had to add ice because it tasted so much better when it was cold. And I thought, what if this could be as easy as just dropping ice into water? Because that's the most simple task. And we're also comfortable with that task. And I know Americans particularly are obsessed with ice. So I started playing around at home and I firstly created our immunity cube. I habit stacked all these ingredients, blended them, put them in an ice cube tray and stashed it in my freezer. And I loved it. I loved it as my daily routine. I would just get out an ice cube, drop it into whatever I was drinking. And I was habit stacking like 3 or 4 things that I was taking separately throughout the day. So yeah, the concept kind of grew from there.
That's so smart. And people are always looking for convenience. They want to, of course, have a routine, but how easy can it be for me so that I don't have to think about it and I can definitely do it on rotation. So that's just such a smart idea. So once you were able to do that at home and figure out, the formula and really how to make it come to life, what were next steps?
So the next steps were, after I visited Expo, I got a lot of inspiration. I saw a lot of what these brands were doing and what was working with some of these really cool brands that were popping off. Obviously, I'm based in London. I do go back and forth to the US, but I thought the US really is the place to launch this. You guys are at the forefront of health and wellness trends. Also, the opportunity in the US is a lot larger. You're at a much bigger scale than we are here in the UK. So I thought this is something I really want to bring to life. So when I was at Expo that first year, I went up to Elizabeth Stein of Purely Elizabeth, and I've always loved her brand and looked up to her as a female founder in the space. And I was asking her loads of questions about, back in the day and her experience, and we exchanged contact details. And we actually stayed in touch for a while. She was coming over to London and I was giving her recommendations. And I thought, I really need someone in the US to help me bring this to life. So it was, I really thought this isn't going to lead to anywhere, but I'm going to ask Elizabeth. I said, do you know of anyone who would want to help me lead this in the US? A CEO, basically, to come on board. And she emailed me back and she said, this is such good timing. I've just been at the Fancy Food Show, and Pete Speranza, who is the ex-CEO of now of Wicked Kitchen, they were going through a transition, and he was really keen to kind of bring a new product to life and start a new venture. So getting Pete on board was the start of the journey, and we've done everything together. Obviously, I'm the nutrition head behind it. He's got a lot of the business experience. So it's been like a real duo of like, we both bring very different skills. But yeah, we've done everything together we started with the product development and the brand building. So we have built the brand from scratch, and that whole process between meeting Pete and getting on shelf was about 18 months.
Wow, that was fast. That's quick.
Yeah.
And so great that you were able to connect with somebody that helped you. It's just such a testament to really being able to connect with other founders and,
For sure.
really form a community that can assist you.
And it's so important, I'm an introvert at heart, and
Same.
I remember, yeah. And it's hard being a founder and being an introvert because you see everyone online and they all seem like such extroverts, but you really have to own your space and really trust your gut. And even going forward and talking to other founders can be really daunting, but I always learn something. And I think, I didn't go up to Elizabeth that day and introduce myself. I would have never met Pete and we would never be doing this together. So it really shows that like everything leads to something.
Yeah. What made you, especially saying that, you typically are an introvert, actually get up the nerve to go and speak to her?
I think I was at Expo West, I've like traveled to California from the UK. I was like, this is the time, like I really just had to get out of my comfort zone. And I think that's another thing as a founder, it's getting comfortable being uncomfortable. So yeah, I think I've grown so much as a person over the last 2 years of being the founder of ROXII. It's like put me in so many different positions I never thought I'd be able to be in. I think every day you're just like building confidence in different ways.
Once you were able to move into the product development phase, did that take a long time to get the product that you created in your kitchen to actually be very similar in regards to it being produced in a manufacturer?
Yeah, it was a really complex process actually, because a functional ice cube is something that no one's ever done before. So for me, I kind of broke it into 3 things. It was nutrition, it was taste, and then it was format. So I started with the nutrition. I formulated every cube myself with the doses that I wanted it to have in, the things I really believed in, the ingredients. That took time. I really wanted it to be right. And we have 4 different cubes, 4 SKUs that we launched with. Each one has a completely different ingredient list. The nutritions, that was one part. And then next came the flavor. So our cubes are packed with function, flavor, and fiber. So the flavor profile, we actually worked with Kerry Foods, who are one of the leading flavor houses and ingredient houses, and they were amazing at helping us formulate everything. I wanted it super clean label. I was probably super fussy, but I really believe in my brand and I wanted it to be and taste and feel a certain way. So they really helped on the flavor profiles. And then when it came to format, finding a co-man was challenging because, like I said, it's the first of its kind. People have made ice. We were actually starting off with an ice manufacturer, and then we moved and went down a different route because we realized that this is very different to ice when it comes to the manufacturing side. We also freeze our cubes. We hyper freeze our cubes at super cold temperatures. So we put them in a spiral freezer. It needs blending. There can be foaming that we need to get rid of. It's like very technical. So yeah, the process did take a while. And we have built over the last 2 years a very small but very mighty team. And we have someone who helps us with the operations and the kind of technical side of things, which was really important for this product.
Going to a manufacturer with something that has never existed or been created before, what were those initial reactions? Were people open to trying it? Did they turn you down?
Yeah, we had people open to try it. And we had some that overcomplicated the process. It is complex, but it's not overly complicated. So it was like a real mix, to be honest with you. And we nailed down on a manufacturer who has a really good track record. They make a lot of great brands as it is. They're not just a frozen co-man, and they do a lot of different things. But we spent a lot of time there, to be honest with you. We did a lot of trials. We also tried a few different co-mans. So it was kind of a process of elimination. But it's funny thinking back to the start, because we were going to use, when I said the frozen co-man, I was going to this ice factory, and it was like this, I've learned so much and experienced so much that I never thought I'd be doing. I never thought I'd be in an ice factory looking at the different depths of ice and the different qualities of ice. And so, yeah, it's been a whole journey, but it's very rewarding to find our co-man now. Yeah, and they're doing a great job.
That's so exciting. So you have your final product. And so then what was the strategy in regards to how you wanted to go out to consumers? Was it initially always retail first, or did you start out online?
We have always gone retail first, and we didn't do D2C. And I think there's pros and cons to both. Frozen is very expensive. So D2C is not as easy as selling a protein bar or a peanut butter or something like this. So we thought, frozen is going to be the way forward for this. If we really want it to be, we really want ROXII to create to disrupt the frozen category. So we thought the frozen aisle is where we need to go. But that has been challenging in other ways of consumer feedback and that testing phase that I think a lot of people get with their product, where they are going just D2C, and it's a really great learning phase. So we've had to think outside the box a little bit of how we do that. So we've had some trial groups. We've done a few rounds of groups of our demographic, and we get them to consume a cube a day, and then we hear their feedback. We're constantly in our DMs chatting with consumers as much as we can. I love hearing the good, the bad, and the ugly. There's not a lot of ugly, but I want to know everything. And it is hard to track to really pin down your consumers when you're just in retail.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's a great opportunity because there's so many eyes on the product. So yeah, we launched in October, November time in London Baileys, which is a Minneapolis-based retailer, because Pete, our CEO, is based in Minneapolis, and they have 30 stores. And that was a great testing period for us, because 30 is it's a big number, but it's a safe number where you can kind of keep track of a lot of what's going on. You can really nurture that relationship. And then in January, we went into Sprouts and Wegmans.
What was the initial feedback from consumers? What were they saying?
Consumers get really excited when they see ROXII. They always have a lot of questions, and that's a big part of the product. It's an education piece. It's something that is total innovation. It's something that no one's seen, done, or tried before. So when we have demos, that's the best way to really educate our consumer. But consumers, once they see how easy it is and they taste the product, they do become hooked. The feedback has been great. Like our flavor profiles, because we're frozen, we don't only lock in the nutrition, we lock in a lot of the flavor. So it's a totally different experience to a powder or something that's sitting on shelf.
So because you are a wellness product, but you were in the freezer section, which you're probably, I would imagine, the only one, how did you identify where proper placement should be when it comes to the freezer?
Yeah, it's such a great question, and something that we've been navigating ourselves from the start. Every buyer we talk to, they always ask about where ROXII should sit. It's not an obvious thing, it's not ice cream. It doesn't have its own category already. So we're kind of creating a category, a new product in a new category, which obviously has its challenges. And again, that education piece comes back to play. But there is a health and wellness set showing up in frozen. But what I find interesting is you look at every part of the store and there's functional wellness. So whether that's like ambient, fresh, anywhere you go, there's like functional is popping up. But frozen is still untapped. It's complete white space. No one's doing functional and frozen. So we are the first of its kind, but we do sit within the frozen fruit set. So there is a health and wellness, like I said, a health and wellness world coming. You've got smoothie bowls. You've got frozen fruit, which people are using for smoothies. You've got smoothie cubes. And although we're not a smoothie cube, we do sit within that set, which I guess is your frozen wellness family. But what I really love is that brands like True Fruit and Fruit Riot, they've really brought a new, excited consumer into that frozen set. They've created a category within itself. Frozen snacking was never a thing 7 years ago. So they're really driving that kind of excited Gen Z younger consumer down the aisle. I think frozen before was thought of as quite a stale area, and it was the frozen pizzas and ice cream and things that haven't changed for years, but I really do think it is evolving.
Just having such an innovative product within this space, how did you price it?
Yeah, we are about $3 a cube, and then everyday low price at Wegmans we set at $9.99, and in Sprouts we're $11.99. We decided on that price point, obviously when it comes to a margin perspective, that came into play, but also the ingredients and the dosages that we're using in the product are really meaningful. So, you're not just getting a cube full of juice. It's got really decent, good amounts of dosages. We're habit stacking those nutrients. So you're not just getting vitamin C. We've got vitamin C, zinc, and we've got 6 grams of fiber in every cube. So it's very meaningful when it comes to the cost.
You talked about initially starting in Minneapolis retailers and then expanding into Wegmans and Sprouts. What made you think about those two specific retailers as being key areas or key retailers for your product and your consumer base?
Yeah, we wanted ROXII to be where our consumer is shopping. So we're starting very much in the natural channel, especially with Sprouts. That's where people go to Sprouts to discover the new exciting brands and products they're launching. I love roaming the aisles of Sprouts whenever I'm in a Sprouts location. They're at the forefront of trialing these products. They're willing to take the risks to try something new and slightly exciting. It's also such a great retailer. And obviously they're very East Coast focused and Sprouts is more West Coast. So they felt like two really nice sets to kind of move into at the start of this year. We eventually would love to branch out to more mass, but right now being in the natural channel is perfect for ROXII. They're the guys that, they're shopping, they're understanding, they're looking for collagen, they're looking for tart cherry, magnesium, L-theanine, all of these ingredients. So yeah, they were the perfect partners.
So once on shelf, what were the marketing strategies that you used in order to drive that awareness and consumers into store? What worked and what didn't work?
Yeah, and that's been a learning curve in itself. With Sprouts, we heavily invested in demos, in-store demos. It's really hard being a founder and not being able to be every single one of those demos and quizzing every consumer. So, and obviously being in the UK, I really had to put my trust into other people. So we brought on a demo company, which I was a little apprehensive about at first, as a control freak. But do you know what? It was a really great exercise, and we spoke every single week. I got so much feedback from the guys who were demoing themselves. I'd speak with each and every one of them, and we got really great return rates on investing in that. It was an investment, but it was something that was really important to us because with ROXII, it really is an experience. So you can just see it on the shelf, but when you see a ROXII Supercube dropping into a glass of water and the colors and the flavor and the melting experience, it's something you kind of want to see in real life. And then once people try it, we have had really good results from those in-store demos.
Yeah. Yeah, I will say I love the experience of seeing it melt and it was not just drinking, hydration drink, but actually to your point, feeling like the whole experience of what it represented.
It is. It's a real experience. And when we were just talking about those marketing plays, we have also had a big push on user-generated content and social media. And those have really come into play with things like meta ads and boosting and getting it in the hands of the right people. And we've learned so much within, it's been really 5 months since we've been on shelf, but we're really kind of building out our playbook. And like I said, because we're a completely new product and creating a completely new category, we kind of had to just throw things at the wall and see what stuck. So that's been a game in itself.
Yeah, I'm sure. What was the hesitancy on hiring somebody from a sampling perspective?
I think it's really hard when people are out there selling your product. You really want them to believe in the brand. And, it's hard to find people that will believe in the brand as much as I believe in the brand, but you really want them to be representing ROXII. You want them to feel excited by it. You want them to know what each cube does. I wanted them to know it has 6 grams of fiber and why it's got 6 grams of fiber and the blend of fiber. We used actually a special blend of fiber that is the least disruptive on the digestive system. And little things like that are really important to me because so many functional products make people bloat quite badly and people stay away from them because of things like that. So there was a lot of things I wanted to get across. And we had a lot of fun sessions. I would educate all the team on that. And I think it was super helpful.
What would you say is the best thing when you do have to hire somebody in order to do that sampling? What are the things that you need to make sure so that you can feel comfortable and that you're choosing the right company to support you?
Yeah, I think a lot of a lot of time you can be promised things, but it really is a results driven exercise. So staying on top of things weekly, I wanted weekly reports on how many units we were selling per demo. I wanted a real breakdown. I wanted feedback, good and bad feedback. I wanted the times they were there. I wanted to know how many units were on shelf before they started the demo and how many units were on shelf after, and all the things. But it's just because I'm excited and I'm passionate and I really want this to work. So it was coming from a good place. And I think I worked really well with the demo team that we worked with. And they were amazing and I couldn't recommend them more.
So when it comes to packaging, how did you determine the right packaging to have on shelf, especially, to what you're saying, where your initial goal was to be on retail shelves? So just making sure it stood out.
Right at the start, I was considering a doy bag, which is a bag similar to a tree fruit style, kind of like a sealy bag that stands upright on the shelf. And, we thought, but then by the time the customer drives home with their ROXII cubes, they can melt and then they'll all congeal together. So that won't work. And I think because we're an ice product, it's fun to have it in a tray. It feels right. The consumers used to an ice cube tray. So we kept it in the tray and then we put a sleeve over. But we really did take time in that front of the pack, because that's your billboard at the end of the day. All those brands in the freezer, especially in some freezers, were in coffin freezers, which are the ones that are kind of like laying out in the store. They're not the doors. And the coffin freezers are super challenging because there's always product on top of yours. They're not kept as tidy as the door freezers. And it's harder to get eyes on the prize there because a lot of consumers don't even go to the coffin freezers. They don't realize they're there and they're usually at the back of the store. So we really wanted something that was going to stand out as much as it could. The brand, the ROXII brand, I wanted it to be playful. I wanted it to be colorful. The front of pack is almost like a melty experience. And the logo is kind of relevant to how I am as a nutritionist and as a person. I wanted it sleek, a little sporty, not too girly, but also like it's functional, We've got a little ripple in our X for like the ripple of the water. There's been a lot of detail that's gone into that and a lot of love. And yeah, we also had to be super clear on the call outs we put on front of pack, because as a nutritionist, I want to put everything. I've got 500 things I want to tell that consumer, but you only got
a few seconds.
You've got seconds.
Yeah.
So it took a lot of time, but we really did, again, process of elimination of what we thought the consumer would really want as a call out.
Yeah. Where did the name come from?
The name, so, okay, the first name, which I thought we were going to launch with, was actually called Melts. But as I was roaming the shelves, I saw 3 different brands / products called Melts. And I thought, okay, really want to own this space. A lot of thinking space, a lot of time. I kind of had to come to something. And I fell in love with ROXII because ROXII stands for on the rocks. It's rocks of ice. A lot of people don't get that. A lot of people, when I say on the rocks, they're like, oh, I get it. It's playful. It's cute. I think it's really fun. And yeah, I've never gone back. I love the brand name ROXII Supercube.
I love that. That's fun. So what are the metrics that you look at or that you think are the most important when it comes to being on retail store shelves?
Yeah, I think units per store per week has become Bible. Every month when we get our sales data, that's the first thing, I'm 8 hours ahead from LA and 6 hours ahead from Minneapolis. And the moment we get that sales data, doesn't matter what time it is, that is what I'm looking at. I'm delving in and yeah, that has become really important. And I've learned a lot about how important that is, because at the end of the day, that's how many units you're selling per store per week. You want to get to a comfortable place within the set that you feel good. There's a number you want to reach for and you want to outdo that number.
Right.
And I'm very type A, so I'm always like striving for more. So yeah, it's fun. It's like a fun monthly game of like, where are we at? Where do we want to get to next month? But yeah, that's the one metric I'd say has become top of the game.
And have there been any things that you've done specifically that changed that units per store per week for you?
Yeah, we've done some promotions. We did like a BOGO. Here we call it Bog Off, buy one, get one free. But apparently that's rude in the US, so it's BOGO. So yeah, we've done a few promotional things which have, you see those nice spikes, which are really nice. And we've actually had really nice follow-ons from that, which is really important data. So we're not having like a big drop after the promotion. So we know we're sustaining, and we've got these repeat customers. ROXII's a great brand and we want customers who are really incorporating this into their like daily, weekly routines. We don't want them just sitting in their freezer and them forgetting they're there. We want someone reaching for that like they would if it was a supplement or something that they take every day. We really want it to be part of their daily routine. So getting those repeat customers is harder to track when you're not D2C, but it's something that, we're really keeping an eye on.
Yeah. As you're building your community and driving awareness of the product and, of course, educating, how are you managing driving consumers to the different retail channels that you have?
So the meta ads has been really powerful. You can actually put in zip codes, which I like. So we can really target those consumers in the Wegmans zip codes. We can just do Wegmans content focused at them. And then the Sprouts side, we can just do the Sprouts content. So that's been really a great metric, as well as we're building out some ROXII brand ambassadors right now as well. So we want to have some in as many regions as we can over time, but we're starting small. And those guys are popping up at basically locations where our consumer is hanging out. So workout studios, health and wellness events, any form of pop-ups or collaborations. We want ROXII to be there. We want ROXII to be seen by those guys. And I try and get involved in as much of that as I can. I've done quite a lot in LA over the past few months. And as a founder, really talking about the product to the consumer and meeting people who are genuinely excited by the brand is it's my favorite thing to do. My favorite way to spend a weekend, being where your consumer is hanging out. So having collaborations, we want to be at all the workout studios where those health and wellness consumers, that's where they are on a Saturday morning. That's where they are in the weekdays, before work, after work. So if they see ROXII popping up a few times, they will be more likely encouraged to go to the frozen aisle and pick us up. And we always give them a coupon too.
That's a good idea. How often do you come to the States?
It's probably been monthly. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. It's been a lot of travel back and forth, but it's so worth it.
With expansion into other retail channels, how has your manufacturer been able to keep up with additional orders to support that?
Yeah, we went with a manufacturer who has, big capabilities. So they've been totally okay. Obviously, we are a new brand, so sometimes it can be hard to be at the top of the pecking order compared to these like OG brands who are running super big quantities. But we're good, and they're very responsive. They're very on it. We have an amazing lady on the team who is head of tech and ops, and she works really closely with them. So it's been pretty smooth to date, which has been good.
Yeah. How do you plan your projections to ensure that you are ordering appropriately?
Yeah, that can also be quite challenging. We have an idea. We go from that units per store per week. And because we watch that so clearly, obviously we're still quite early days here at ROXII, but Pete, with his experience in retail with Wicked, he's quite good at those projections. We have been pretty clear on our goal of not wanting to expand too quickly. We want to rush slowly. So for this year, Sprouts and Wegmans really are a priority. We've got some independents coming on, and we're going to be at a really nice number, hopefully by the end of the year, that we feel good with. And then next year, maybe take that next step into slightly more mass.
So you have Pete, you mentioned someone else in your team. How big is the team today?
We have a team of 4 full-time, and we also have some fractional people that pulse in and out, which has been really helpful for a brand our size. We're still very early days. Launching a brand in the US is extremely expensive.
Yeah.
So we're just still taking it slow, but we've got Jade as well, who is an amazing asset to the team. She helps with social media and events, and she's based in LA. So we work really closely together. And I brought her on a year ago. She was fresh out of college. I found her on LinkedIn. She did an amazing post on Poppy. And I thought, wow, this is really impressive. And I sent her a message and we chatted, and we brought her on, and she's been great. Yeah, it's crazy how you can find people. You never know,
Yeah. And you're not afraid, it sounds like, to reach out to people. So that's helped significantly.
Yeah, it has. It's been super helpful.
Yeah. What's the benefit of hiring a fractional teammate?
I think cost. You can bring them in as and when you need them. You can give them a certain amount of hours a week or a month, and it helps really manage the cash burn.
What has been the toughest moment as a founder, and how do you work through it?
I think it's probably having a new innovative product within a new category, a category that didn't really exist long ago. That's been challenging because we're not only educating our consumer, but also educating the buyers. We really pursue some great conversations from it. But again, it's a constant education piece and showing where we believe this category could grow to.
That's good insight. Like as you're speaking to buyers and you're talking to these buyers in regards to get into new retail channels, what has been, do you believe, the strongest motivators that you present that get them to say yes?
So firstly, I love doing, when we've done some pitches, being in person makes such a difference because the product is so impactful. I love seeing their face when we drop a cube into a glass and it just melts. And it's so simple, but it's so beautiful.
Yeah.
And I think seeing how easy the experience is, but also once they taste it, they're always really surprised by how good the taste is. And then when it comes to the 4 SKUs that we've launched with, actually, they always say how we're bang on the button with the trends. So, we've got hydration, which is electrolytes, magnesium. We've got glow, that is collagen, vitamin A, biotin. We've got immunity, vitamin C, zinc. And then we have chill, which is tart cherry, magnesium, and L-theanine, which was actually based off the viral Sleepy Girl mocktail.
Okay.
So when we talk about the 4 SKUs and the 4 functions, they're always so excited that that's where it's blowing up in other areas of the store. But like I said, frozen is white space. And then the fiber factor is another thing which really gets them excited because everyone is fiber maxing right now.
Yeah. 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 When I saw the flavors, I was like, she's nailed every single category that's trending currently in that wellness space.
And as it is so hard because as a founder and a nutritionist, I wanted to launch 10. I couldn't choose at first. I was like, how am I going to nail this down? But 4 feels really good. And we've got a 5th that will hopefully launch next year. And yeah, I'm really excited about that one.
How are you planning innovation as you move forward? Are you thinking like one a year, couple a year? How are you planning that out?
Yeah, probably 1 to 2 a year when it comes to the cubes, flavor and function. But what's been interesting in our data is all 4 cubes are selling the same.
Really?
Yes. So we don't have one that's obviously leading or one that's obviously falling, at the back, which also is very interesting to me. Through summer, we've had like a slight immunity, maybe is like hydration's just gone above immunity, but they're all very, very, very similar numbers. So that's been quite interesting. Feel like, so when we think about launching new innovation and the cubes, it'll be interesting to see how this 5th one does because there's no obvious pecking order, but we're also working on something really exciting, which will be obviously still ROXII frozen and functional, but it's not a Supercube within the ROXII brand. So hopefully that will launch next year, which is something that I'm really, really excited about.
Yeah, that's interesting. I would imagine like the magnesium and collagen would have been the top performers just based on trend.
Yeah. And we all had our bets, some people were saying, we think this will be the leader. We think this one will, fall behind, but it's every time. It's like all of them are so close. So yeah.
People love all of them.
Yeah. I think the thing is they're different occasions. So it really depends what the consumer needs.
You get data that helps you to determine whether they're buying 1 or 2, or are they mixing and matching? What does that look like?
We haven't had that data yet. But I'm interested. We've done our BOGO and we get that data next week. So that will be interesting. But getting the mix and match, if it's coming from the same consumer, I don't think we can get that, which is really frustrating and it's hard to pin down. The other thing is data is very expensive, as I'm sure you know. So, we're getting the data we can get. I think we want to wait till certain pinpoints throughout the year to maybe invest in like bigger sets of data because it is a real expense.
I'm so excited for this brand because I feel like you definitely are opening up a whole new space. It is like Poppy, where like that was the first in the set and that really like introduced a category that now is so known.
And someone actually compared us to Grunz the other day because it's like a behavior people are already doing, but why not make it function? Why not make your ice work harder?
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm very excited. I think there's a lot of potential. Once they try ROXII and incorporate it into their daily routine, they understand how delicious and easy it is.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the convenience factor definitely is something that continues to trend. And then having multiple benefits, which you have, is also something that's happening in the marketplace that people don't want to take a bunch of different things. Like right now I'm taking shots and pills and gels and
It's so expensive. It's so expensive. It's so time consuming. And it's messy. It's all the stuff. So so that was exactly why I created this product in the first place.
Yeah, love the convenience. So what is next for ROXII Supercube?
So we have a new SKU launching, which I mentioned earlier. So that will be launching next year. We have some new exciting retailers coming on board, which will be taking place in 2027.
Excellent.
And also a new product line under ROXII, still functional, still frozen, but something slightly different, but as delicious and as good for you.
Excellent. And then where can our listeners follow, support, and most importantly, buy ROXII Supercube?
Yes. So we are very active on social media. We're at ROXII Supercube, and ROXII is ROXII. We're always in our DMs. We love chatting. We love hearing your favorite cube, how you found it, all the feedback. So always drop us a message. And we are nationwide at Sprouts, Wegmans, and London Biley's if you're in the Minneapolis market.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Belle, for coming on Shelf Talks.
Thank you so much for having me. This was really fun.
Yeah.